Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl Shantae back with another episode of Chatting with Shantae. How in the world are y'all doing? Me, I am hype. So, as many of you probably know, tonight was the very first night of the Janet Jackson documentary series. It's a 2-night series, so we got tomorrow night as well. And honey, as a mega Janet fan, I don't know if I've ever said it on my channel before. I feel like I have. I can't, go too many conversations and, topics without mentioning Janet. But I am such a huge Janet fan. Let me just preface this whole thing by saying I love me some Janet Jackson. As y'all can see from this blanket, okay, getting to the blanket, we have more like up here, down here, getting to the Rhythm Nation sweatshirt. Like, I go hard for Miss Janet Jackson. Do you understand me? Like, my earliest memories of just like hearing her music and being exposed to it, in better words, is my mommy. Like, and I was like 4, 5, 6 years old. My mommy would be dancing around. We had like this big surround sound speaker system in our apartment, and she would be blasting the Control album, and she would just be dancing around. I'd be dancing with her, not even knowing who Janet Jackson was at that time. And then as I got older, discovering her music for myself and just loving everything about her. So when the news broke out that we were going to get a documentary about her life and her career, I was like, wait, because if you're someone who knows Janet, like her career and how she is as an artist and a celebrity, Janet Jackson is private, okay? She doesn't tell you nothing, all right? Like, if you want to know information about Janet, you're going to have to be like this with her, okay? Like, she doesn't give out any unwarranted information. So for her to really be opening up, especially at this point in her life and her career where she's broken all the records, she's done all the stats, she's gotten all the numbers and the accolades, she's set the standard. She's like, now's a good time. And she's one of those people, listen, don't believe it unless you hear it from my mouth. So it's just amazing that, for one, she decided to even do this, because did she really have to? Like, no, but I'm glad she did, because I'm nosy. And two, the fact that she is still here with us to be able to share her own story in her own truth and her own right. Like, not have anybody else try and write her story for her or anything like that. Like, she's still here. She still has major say in what gets put out about her and all that good stuff. So I was glued to the TV. Listen, y'all should have seen me. I got off of work. I handled all my business, got my food, came home, took my shower, got everything together. So that way, 7 o'clock on the dot, I talked to everybody who I had to talk to. And all communication was off unless we were tweeting and talking about the documentary, okay? But I got my other phone here just because I took a few little notes. Now, I will say I didn't expect us to go into too many like details about spoilers, or not even spoilers, but just dramatic things that happened in her life in the very first night. I feel like tomorrow, though tonight was very exciting, I feel like tomorrow is when oh snap moments are about to come hitting at us in these next two parts. So this first part was really just the introduction, like all the formalities, like her upbringing and things like that. Now, of course, you can't tell Janet Jackson's story 100% without mentioning her brothers and her father, and how the Jackson 5 came to be, and how Joe Jackson saw that, and he saw the talent in his daughter and all of that, and how she became to be. I'll get into that in a second, because I just feel like, never mind. Anyway, so boom. Of course, we know she grew up in Gary, Indiana. Listen, they started from May 16th, 1966, the day she came into this world. I said, we could have went a few years later, but that's okay. That's okay. So basically, it's kind of following Randy. Now, this whole documentary takes place from 2017 when she started her State of the World tour up to now. So 5 years in the making, which is crazy to me, because, honey, I would have been like, you know what? At this point, I'm over it. But yeah, so she and Randy, they're in Gary, Indiana. They're at their old home that they grew up in with their other siblings and their parents. And Janet is like, because you got to remember, when they were living there and when they moved, she was very, very, very young. She was basically a baby. So she doesn't realize how small the house was. And, when he was explaining, okay, well, y'all slept right here on this couch. We had these bunk beds over here. It was 3 of us to 1 bunk bed. She said 1 bunk bed. And then when Randy told her where she was sleeping on the little couch thing, she was like, on the couch? Janet is funny, her facial expression, but basically he was kind of giving the rundown. He, as in Randy, was kind of giving her the rundown of how, their father was. And did y'all catch how Randy kept referring to Joe as your father? Now, I don't know if he was doing it. Now, I don't have siblings. Like, I'm an only child, so I can't really discuss the banter between siblings when discussing their parents. But I know some people will joke and be like, guess what your mama did today? But it seemed like, I don't know if he was like joking or not joking, but if he was doing it like in a sarcastic way, like, girl, let me tell you about your daddy. Or if he was like, no, your father, I don't want no parts to do with him, like, at all. So I was like, okay, am I the only one who caught that little shade or whatever? But he was basically just telling them, how their group came to be, the Jackson 5, like the potential Joe saw in them to form this group and how he was going to turn them into mega success stars. And the reason he did that is because that area, that neighborhood, the environment they grew up in, it wasn't really the best, and he didn't want his children to succumb to going to jail and getting involved in the wrong things and the wrong people. And even Randy was like, some of the people that we grew up with, some of our friends from our childhoods, they're in jail, they're no longer here with us, they went down the wrong path, and Joe didn't want that for them. So he saw the talent that they had, and he was like, okay, this is our ticket to get out of here and live a better life. And that's exactly what they did. So that's basically what the first episode was really about, just how the family got to become the Jackson family, how we know them now, and then how that ties into Janet's her story as well, because she started off very, very young performing with her siblings. And she is crazy to me because 7 years old, like, not touring, but like having back-to-back shows and not really living a normal childhood. And even though her, when she was 2, her brothers were like the Jackson 5. So she was already born into the spotlight. She even said this numerous times in like different interviews, like with her brothers being who they are, and then in their own personal family, she's the baby. So of course, all attention goes to the baby. She's in the spotlight like that. So she never really had like a normal childhood. And then going from performing with her brothers and sisters like in Vegas to going on to being on Good Times and then Fame and all that good stuff, Different Strokes and all these other shows, like she literally has never not been in the public eye. And I would imagine after so much or so many years, especially as like a child going into preteen years, going into teenage years, that could be a little bit hectic. But so about the Jackson 5 segments, listen, like I said, okay, and I already know you can't talk about Janet's story and not talk about the success of her brothers and how their father geared them into going into that path. But am I the only person? Like, it low-key got to the point, and this isn't me complaining at all, because listen, when I tell you, I sat right here like, yes, I love all of it, okay, because they were spitting facts. The Jackson family is the blueprint, okay, when it comes to music royalty. But it was getting to the point where they were going so much in the archives with the Jackson 5 and all that other type of stuff. It felt like I was watching Making the Band Jackson 5, and I forgot this was Janet's documentary until we heard her voice, or when she popped up like, yes, it might be, oh, this is about you, my bad, sis. Like, I just kind of feel like the Jackson 5 parts, it could have got condensed a little bit, but that's okay. So like I said, we talked about Good Times and, her going into that show, and then Fame, how she was over it. Listen, if you are someone who is a fan of Janet, she was not rocking with Fame at all. She did not want to do it. She was over it. She was showing up late. She wasn't talking to them people on like, I'm here for it. Listen, Janet was like, girl, I'm just here to get my check, and that's it. And I completely, listen, Janet, I'm here with you, okay? Listen, I'm just here to get my check, clock in, do my work, clock out, and boom, that's it. We don't really have time for the extra casualties. And so then her father basically said, okay, I want you to sing, period. And she was like, well, that's beautiful, okay? However, I would like to go get me a college education. I would like to, get a degree and study business law. And Joe Jackson said, so anyway, the microphone's right here. I'm like, and even Janet was like, what parent? Like, because usually in certain situations where the options is like a creative career path or going down the college route, usually it's the kids that's like, listen, I don't want to be in school. I want to follow my dreams of being a recording artist and actor. Like, I don't need to go to school. And their parents are like, no, you need your education to fall back on. But in this case, in Janet's case, it was the complete opposite. She wanted to go, because I feel like that was going to be like her a little sense of peace of normalcy, like, you know, going, and I think she kind of mentioned that, you know, she wanted to live in a dorm and see what that was like and be on a college campus and take classes and things like that. And her father was like, I hate to rain on your parade, but get your umbrella. I'm about to rain all on your parade. And boom. So a lot of people probably didn't know that she had 2 albums before Control. I know Control is her breakout album and we love it, but she does have 2 albums before Control, Janet Jackson and Dream Street, both of which were under the guise of, you know, other managers and her father heavily having an influence about the type of music she was making and things like that. And due to that, they didn't really chart that well. Oops. So she was like, okay, look. So now we're getting into Control. And this was the, well, my bad. Let me rewind. So before we get into Control, you know, they did mention James a little bit. Okay, James DeBarge, and going into his family history and how he was brought up and things like that and how they came to be. And honey, let me just say, if Janet Jackson don't do nothing else, she gonna pop out with a husband, okay? And she not gonna tell not nobody, not her mama, not her daddy, not her bestest friend, not her sister, like, honey, she gonna pop out. Oh, by the way, y'all, over the weekend I had got married. Did I mention that in the group text? I didn't. Oh, okay, my bad. Like, even Reba was like, and the next thing I know, Janet got married. I said, Reba, where you be at? Listen, this ain't got nothing to do with nothing, but listen, if I had to be a Jackson, okay, I would want to be Reba. Listen, Reba is collecting what's hers, okay? Because she is the oldest Jackson. She and Catherine kept popping out them kids. She had to keep raising them with them, okay? She had to be a helping hand. And I just feel like, listen, if I were Reba, and I pray she's doing this now, I would just be sitting back collecting all what's owed to me. The money, the recognition without having to do too much. I can sit back and I can be, this is Reba Jackson, okay? Yes, that's me. My name holds weight. I ain't got to do too much. Like, baby, I would want to be Reba. Reba minds her business. She got all the tea and she just gets to reap the benefits, okay? Not in like a conniving way or a bad way, but she just like, baby, I'm Reba Jackson, okay? And I ain't got to do much to prove it. Like, it's me. But yeah, so we get into her marriage with James DeBarge and how that didn't really work out the way they would have liked or the way she would have liked due to James having a drug problem. And listen, let me just tell you something. Lifetime, y'all really could have kept the commercials to a minimum. And when I say minimum, I mean 0. I just feel like we finally have a chance to get in all of Janet Jackson's business, the amount that she will let us get into. And y'all decide to give us commercials. I promise you, we were not anticipating or looking forward to commercials. Y'all could have gone a couple nights without giving us commercials. I promise you, we would have not tweeted you at Lifetime Television. Where were the commercials? I promise you, we would not have caused a riot over not having commercials. And y'all put the commercials at the most inconvenient, inopportune time. Like when she dropped the bomb, I don't know, I guess it's just something that I have with drug users. Dump L'Oreal commercial. Baby, what? This woman just said he was using drugs. And she hinted that that wasn't the first drug user that she was with. And y'all want to go to a L'Oreal commercial? Baby, y'all had me messed up for a second. And it seemed like as the documentary went on, the commercials became more frequent. And I'm just like, why do y'all need to be advertising anything? But yeah, so that marriage was very short-lived due to, you know, she was saying at one point she found pills and she was trying to flush them down the toilet and they was rolling around on the floor fighting to get them. I'm like, oh, gee. And mind you, she's 18. Honey, but I can see how they could connect just because he comes from the DeBarge family, a big musical family. She comes from the Jackson family, and I can see how they could connect, but gosh darn. But yeah, but the part that really had me like, it was really chilling to me, and I can't even understand why, just because we know how this happened in her life. When she was like, okay, I'm going to take this whole music thing. I'm going to go for one more spin with it, but it's going to have to be under my rules, the way I want it to go. So that means major changes are going to have to be made. That means, Daddy, you fired. Okay, Joseph, you are gone. Thank you. New producers, me please. Like, I'm in this new space. I'm 20. I am grown. And I ain't got time for this, okay? Let me meet Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. How y'all doing? And we're going to get this thing crack-a-lacking. And it was that whole segue and that transition into Control and her, like the moments before shooting the Control video. And just those moments, it had me like, oh my goodness. Just because we know that that was the moment, like those executive decisions that she made are the reasons that her career did that whole 180. Like, her career just skyrocketed. And I don't know, it was just something very chilling about that, very emotional. And speaking of emotional, the very beginning where she was, in Gary, Indiana, she was in the car and there was a mural of her brothers, and she began to cry because she had never seen it. And oh my goodness, I was like, we only a minute and 45 seconds in and we're already tearing up. And we got a whole other night? Oh, no. And another emotional part, and you can tell it was still really emotional for her even years later, is the whole James situation, because I want to say that was like her first love. That was someone who she really, she wanted things to be better. And because of the fact that that wasn't enough, oh my, you could hear her getting like choked up and just emotional about what all that relationship, entailed. So that was just very, that was really emotional. I'm not going to lie to you. I teared up a little bit. It's okay, Janet. It's okay, Janet. And then again, we get into Control. And then when they hit us with, in 1988, Janet began recording the follow-up to Control. I said, don't sugarcoat it. That's Rhythm Nation, baby. Don't call a spade a spade. That's the Rhythm Nation era, okay? Now, I know I'm getting hyped for Rhythm Nation, but I was excited for us to be moving on to the next era of her life. But listen, I'm just put it out here before tomorrow night. Can y'all guess what my favorite, you know what, I'm going to have y'all guess. What y'all think my favorite Janet Jackson era is? Not just album, not just tour, but like the whole era. What do y'all think my favorite Janet era is? Okay, and listen, if you know me, then you know which one it is. But what vibes do I give off? Okay, honey, when we get into that tomorrow, and they better not graze over it. They better not be like, and then in this year she recorded this album, and then no. Y'all gonna focus on this era for a good 10 minutes at least. At least, no commercials, okay? Give me straight footage, raw, never before seen footage of this era, my favorite era, okay? But going back to Rhythm Nation, but that was just hype for me because the groundbreaking, monumental era that Rhythm Nation, I don't even want to say still is, because if you peeped, Jimmy Jam said the Rhythm Nation tour is still the highest selling debut tour for any artist to this day. To this day, like this day, the day I'm talking to you right now, to this day. I'm like, that's incredible. And the fact that that was her first tour, she broke all these records, sold all these albums with no live no tour, you know what I'm saying? Like just award show performances and putting out the album and some videos, and that was it. And that's why I say, listen, I love the new girls. I do. They give me bops, but you gotta give the respect to our OGs. Prior to going viral, prior to social media, prior to streams, you really had to work your butt off to get them sales, okay? You really had to put in the work. You really had to grind, okay, to get 8 million albums sold, to break all these records. Like, people had to actually go out of their house to buy your albums. Like, people had to line outside of stores to buy your tickets. And, like, people had to, really be invested. Okay. And, with social media, we're able to get access to what's going on and get the inside scoop real quick. But, back in the 80s and 90s, early 90s and stuff like that, it was like, okay, like, how were people getting this information? It wasn't checking their phone on Instagram and seeing the latest TikTok dance, even though I love both of those platforms. But I'm just saying, you gotta listen. If you were making it like number one and breaking all these records back in the day, like Janet was, I'm just saying. And I think a lot of this kind of highlighted the fact that she was really trying to get out of not just her brother's shadow, but like just the whole Jackson last name shadow as well. And I think, I don't think she mentioned it in the documentary, but I do know at one point, either in her book or an interview or something, she didn't even want people to know what her last name was. And I think that's just incredible because she did that. Like, she wasn't writing her brother's name, her family's name, and their success. Like, she was like, no, if I'm going to be successful at this, it's because I earned it. It's because I did my own thing. It's because I'm my own person, not because I'm just mooching off my brother Michael, my family, my father, whoever. Like, no, she's like, I'm Janet D. Jackson, okay? And can't nobody say she didn't do that. Like, can't nobody say that she's only successful because of who her family is. Like, you can't say that's the only reason. Like, no, people are not going to be lining up for hours. No one's going to be passing out at her shows. Nobody's going to be buying all this stuff and, you know, selling out her concert tours just because she's Michael Jackson's sister when they could have went to go see Michael if that's all they cared about. Like, you got to have some sort of weight to your own name, okay? Yes, you share last name with these successful people, but honey, Janet was like, girl, I don't know who y'all think y'all talking to. And speaking of that, honey, now that we in Rhythm Nation, and now we're in her relationship with Renee Elizondo. Okay, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. That was a fly couple. They were fine. Do you understand me? Like, during Up in This Era, okay, this blanket making her look crazy. But yeah, like, during this Up in This Era here, okay, honey, baby, they was fine. Do you understand me? Like, fine. I just know. And I ain't gotta say nothing else more, but y'all know, excuse me, y'all know what I'm about to say. I just know. But anyway, but no, so she's with Renee Elizondo now, which unbeknownst to Paul Reba didn't know nothing. Because all Reba kept saying, and then I looked up and Janet was married. I said, Reba, do y'all talk? What do you do? Okay, what are you doing? But anyway, that footage when they were recording Rhythm Nation, and Jimmy Jam was like, listen, the way you singing this is a little flat, okay? I need you to give me some oomph, some of that sass, some of that attitude. And she's like, okay, I got you. Yeah. And he's like, we're going to redo that, and I need you to give me more oomph, okay? I need you to give me that attitude that I know you can give me. So then she starts singing, and Jimmy and Terry, they outside, and they laughing. What they laughing at, I don't know, but baby, Janet was like, I don't know what's funny. I don't really know what's funny, but if y'all want to giggle, I can step out this booth. And I'm just like, excuse, what did I drink? But honey, and they was like, no, we ain't laughing, keep going. And then she's like, no, because y'all really trying to play in my face. I'm sitting here singing a song the way you want me to, and then when I do that, y'all want to laugh. And then I heard a bleep. Now, I don't know if the bleep came from Janet or if it came from Jimmy. I think it came from Jimmy. And then, honey, all I know is a piece of a cuss word came out. And the studio booth light went off, the headphones slammed down, and Janet was outside the corridor like, if y'all want to giggle, we can turn it into Comedy Central right now. We can really laugh. I don't know who y'all thought y'all was talking to. I don't know which member of my family y'all got me confused with, but y'all already know y'all got the right run on the wrong day. Like, who do y'all think y'all are, okay? We've already recorded 4-5 songs. Y'all saying the way that I'm singing it ain't right. Then I changed the way I'm singing it, and now y'all want to sit here and laugh. Babe, let's go. I ain't got to deal with y'all. Bump this. I ain't got to deal with y'all. I'm going back. Get me on my private jet to LA. Move out my way. And then the very next day, Jimmy! I said, Janet, no, you would not be in my studio the next day. Talk about saying, hey, Jimmy, how you doing? But Jimmy said that was like their banter. Like, they wouldn't agree all the time. But they would always get back like this. But honey, that footage was funny. Only because Renee was recording, because they had a segment where it said Renee documented the next decade of her life. And I was like, wow. Where's the footage? We want all the footage, actually. But no, once the argument started to get heated and the F-bomb started flying and Janet came out the studio, Jimmy was like, okay, you can stop recording. He was like, I should stop recording? Okay. I said, Renee, Renee, you were lucky that they were so much in a heated argument that they probably didn't even notice that you were still recording, or you were recording on the slick. But I don't know how you could record on the slick with that big old camcorder. Just, it was giving very much Maury's, camera guy, like, you are not the father. That's what that was giving me, but that was hilarious to me because people don't think Janet can raise her voice, and she raised her voice and she cussed them out and she stomped off. But that's basically kind of where where this first night kind of ended. Honey, I said after 2 hours, we're only just on Rhythm Nation. Baby, if it was up to me, we would be looking at All For You at this point. I'm so sorry. Because even Janet was like, how can I fit my entire life in 4 hours? And I'm just like, well, if you chunk out some of the upbringing with your Jackson 5 siblings, no disrespect, we cut out some of that. Lifetime, doesn't give us commercials. Well, we can get to that, okay? You can fit a good chunk of your life into these 4 hours, but I'm just excited because now I feel like now that we got the introduction out the way, we got the formalities out the way, now we can get into the nitty gritty, okay? Now we can get deeper into her relationship with Renee and then the other projects and eras that came, during that time. Like, because listen, the 90s, oh, honey, because Rhythm Nation ended in what, 90, 91, up in there? We're not even all up in the 90s, okay? So the 90s, and then we got all the 2000s and all the things and relationships that came about during those times. And then with this era, the Janet era, we got the Janet era, and then we got Poetic Justice tied into it. So I'm excited to see how they're going to fit all this in. And I hope it doesn't feel rushed. I really hope it doesn't. But I'm excited because I just feel like even though tonight was very exciting, I just feel like tomorrow night's part of the documentary is where it's going to be like, now wait a minute, wait a sec, like, honey. And it just felt, and it was so amazing because Janet Jackson doc is trending #1 on Twitter, period. And it's been trending this whole week. But it's just amazing to see all the people gathering around for Janet and rallying for her. And it really felt like, BET Awards, like, when the BET Awards was good, no shade, everybody would be on Twitter just live tweeting and all the jokes and memes and tweets that would come about. That's what this felt like. It felt like a little, virtual family reunion and all the discussions. So I'm really excited to see what everyone has to say because there's going to be like a lot of cameo appearances like Tiana Taylor, Sierra, Missy Elliott, Jermaine Dupri, etc., etc. So I'm excited to see, what everybody has to say about her and all the other type of stuff. But baby, this was a good leading up to the dramatics and the theatrics. But what did y'all think? Did y'all watch it? The rerun is actually on right now. I'm looking at it right now. But tell me what y'all think. Did y'all like it? Did y'all find out anything new about Janet that y'all didn't know? Are y'all more excited for tomorrow night? What y'all thinking? But I'm gonna get on up out of here so I can go to bed so that way I can be well rested for tomorrow. And part 2 of the Janet Jackson documentary review will be up tomorrow around this time, of course. But until then, I love y'all. Bye.